A 10-year-old named Cole seemed hollow and withdrawn, despite daily hugs, gifts, and time together. His parents had been loving him in every language except the one he actually spoke. Welcome to Whispering Pages. If you're just here for the summary, skip to the next chapter. For the rest of us, let's ease in. Notice the weight of your body settling in, and let the sounds of the room come and go. What you hear tonight consolidates into memory while you sleep. Tonight's book is The 5 Love Languages of Children by Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell, a guide to the specific way your child needs to feel loved, and why getting it wrong breaks something even when you're trying your hardest. So let's begin. Close your eyes if you'd like, and let's whisper through this one together. There's a moment many parents quietly dread, the one where they realize they've been working hard, giving a lot, showing up as best they can, and yet something is still missing. Their child doesn't seem to feel loved. Not truly, deeply loved. And the harder they try, the more helpless it feels. This book is written for that moment. The 5 Love Languages of Children was co-authored by Gary Chapman, a marriage counselor who spent decades helping couples understand and communicate better, and Ross Campbell, a psychiatrist who spent his career focused on the emotional needs of children and teenagers. Chapman had already written the original 5 Love Languages, which helped millions of couples understand why their best efforts at love sometimes miss the mark. The children's version followed because parents kept applying the same principles to their kids, and writing in to say it worked. The central idea is this: every child has a primary emotional language through which they feel deeply loved. When you speak that language, their inner emotional tank fills up. When you don't, even the most devoted parenting can fall short. The 5 languages are physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, and acts of service. The book opens with a story about an 8-year-old boy named Caleb. He had been above average in school for 2 years and then suddenly started struggling. He was clinging to his teacher, asking the same questions over and over, picking fights with his sister at home, and acting in ways that baffled everyone. His parents had his hearing checked. A counselor ran a comprehension test. Both came back fine. What had actually changed was simpler and more painful. His mother had recently moved from part-time to full-time work. His father had stopped taking him to football games. The quality time that had quietly filled Caleb's emotional world had quietly disappeared. He wasn't malfunctioning. He was starving for something specific, and no one could name it because no one had the language for it. The authors use a vivid image for this: the emotional love tank. Every child has an internal tank that needs to stay filled. When it's full, the child is secure, cooperative, curious, and resilient. When it's running low, they become clingy, irritable, unmotivated, or start acting out. The behavior isn't the problem, it's the signal. A child who is misbehaving is often a child whose tank has run dry. Here's the critical insight that lifts this book above generic parenting advice. You can love your child with genuine effort and sincere intention, and still be speaking the wrong language. If your child's primary love language is quality time, then the gifts you carefully choose and the words of praise you offer, as kind as they are, will not fill that tank the way 1 hour of focused, distraction-free attention will. The child isn't being ungrateful. They're just wired differently than you assumed. The authors are careful to say that all 5 languages matter for every child. Every child needs to be touched, encouraged, given time, occasionally given gifts, and helped with acts of service. But one of the 5 will speak most deeply. Getting that one right changes everything. The first love language is physical touch. probably the one parents think about most when their children are very young. The authors explain that touch isn't just comfort, it's communication. Holding a newborn, roughhousing with a toddler, a casual hand on the shoulder when a child is nervous, the hug when they come through the door after school. All of these are sending a message at a level below words. For children whose primary language is physical touch, these moments are not nice extras. They are the oxygen of emotional security. The authors describe a teenage boy whose father was physically affectionate with him as a young child but gradually stopped, assuming he'd outgrown it. What the father didn't realize was that his son still needed touch as the main signal that he was loved. As the touch disappeared, so did the boy's sense of security, and eventually, so did his connection with his father. One thing that tends to surprise parents, for children whose primary language is touch, the negative use of it, rough handling in anger, physical punishment, is experienced as a far deeper wound than it would be for other children. The same channel that carries the deepest love also carries the deepest hurt. Parents of these children would do well to never discipline through physical pain. Watch your child for clues. Does your child reach for your hand in moments of stress? Do they want to sit close, climb into your lap, ask for back rubs? Do they seem to light up when you greet them with warmth and deflate when you're cold or distracted? These are signals. And learning to speak this language doesn't require dramatic gestures. It's about texture and frequency, making touch a natural part of the daily rhythm rather than a special occasion. The second love language is words of affirmation, and it's where many well-meaning parents get quietly tripped up. Most parents who love their children do tell them so. They say, "I love you." They offer praise when the report card is good. They congratulate achievements. But the authors make an important distinction between love as a declaration and love as a continuous climate. For a child whose primary language is words, what they need is not just occasional statements of affection. They need the experience of being seen and spoken well of, consistently and specifically, throughout the ordinary texture of a day. There are 4 types of affirming words the book explores. Words of love: simple, direct, unconditional. Words of praise: specific acknowledgement of what the child did or achieved. Words of encouragement, which means something deeper than a compliment. The word encourage literally means to instill courage. Catching a struggling child mid-attempt and saying with genuine warmth that you see them trying does something that praise for the finished product alone cannot do. And words of guidance, positive direction that shapes character without shaming the child. The book returns to a story that has been told many times but loses none of its power. A teacher in Minnesota asked her students to write the nicest thing they could think of about every other person in the class. She collected the notes and transferred them onto individual sheets, so each student received a list of what their classmates had said about them. The students were quietly stunned. Some who didn't know they mattered to anyone discovered that they mattered to everyone. Years later, one of those students was killed in service overseas. At the burial, his parents showed the teacher the list he had carried in his wallet since the day she'd handed it to him. It had been folded and unfolded so many times it was nearly falling apart. His classmates each revealed they had kept their own lists too. Words are not small things. The authors are also honest about a trap parents fall into. Excessive, indiscriminate praise loses its meaning and can actually backfire. Children learn very quickly when they're being flattered rather than genuinely seen, and flattery registers as a kind of dishonesty. The goal isn't to paper over everything with positivity. It's to be attentive to what the child is genuinely doing well and say so, with specificity and sincerity. They also address what happens when the channel of words is used in reverse. For a child whose primary love language is words, harsh criticism doesn't just sting, it carves. These are the children who carry a parent's thoughtless comment from a Tuesday afternoon for the rest of their lives. Cole's story, which opened tonight's episode, lives here. His parents were giving him touch, time, and gifts, all with love. But their actual words communicated frustration and criticism. Once they recognized this and shifted their verbal register for just 1 month, something shifted fast. Cole started laughing again. He started going outside to play football with neighborhood kids. Their relationship began to breathe. The third love language is quality time, and it's probably the most misunderstood of the 5, because it sounds simple but the execution is harder than it looks. Quality time isn't proximity. It isn't being in the same house while both of you are on separate screens. It isn't even doing a nice activity together if your attention is divided. The authors are precise about this. Quality time means focused, undivided attention where the child knows, without any ambiguity, that they are the priority right now. The form this takes changes by age. With a toddler, it might be sitting on the floor and following their lead in play, not directing, not improving, just being fully present in their world for 20 or 30 minutes. With a 10-year-old, it might be a quiet car ride where you ask real questions and actually listen. With a teenager, watching something they chose on a quiet evening without checking your phone. What matters more than the activity is the quality of presence. The authors make a powerful observation about what parents think of as quality time versus what children whose primary language is time actually experience. Parents often plan the big event, the Saturday outing, the vacation, the special dinner. But many children who need time actually need the ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The 20 minutes before bedtime when you sit on the edge of the bed and just talk. The unremarkable moments, repeated with consistent attention, do more emotional work than the grand gesture planned in advance. Caleb's story comes back here. His parents had planned nothing wrong. They hadn't failed at any single dramatic moment. But they had quietly, unintentionally withdrawn from the daily rhythm of being present with him, and he was responding to the absence with everything he had. The correction, once they understood it, was also ordinary. Emily began staying present with Caleb after school, the way she used to. Brad started going to games again and sitting with his son on the drive home. Within weeks, Caleb was different. Not because anything extraordinary happened, because the ordinary thing he needed came back. The fourth love language is gifts, and this is the one that creates the most confusion, because it's also the language that gets most misused in modern parenting. We live in a culture that has learned to substitute gifts for presents. Parents who are stretched thin, who feel guilty about the hours they can't give, often compensate with things. The toy, the treat, the new device. It's not cynical, it comes from love. But the authors are clear that when gifts become a stand-in for the other love languages, they don't fill the tank. They paper over it. That said, gifts are a genuine love language. For children whose primary way of receiving love is through gifts, it's not about materialism. A gift is a symbol. It says, I thought about you when you weren't there. I saw something and it made me think of you. You were in my mind even when we were apart. The authors make a distinction that matters. It's not the size or cost. A wildflower picked on the way home from work can speak as deeply as an expensive toy from a store, if the child understands that the flower was brought home because of them. The gesture, the intentionality, the I thought of you, that's the message. The object is just the carrier. They also address what happens when gifts become expected rather than offered. When parents train their children to expect a gift at every difficult moment or every special trip, the gift loses its language. It stops being a communication and becomes a transaction. The child who tantrums when no gift appears isn't speaking the love language of gifts. They're responding to a reward system that got mistaken for one. The fifth love language is acts of service, perhaps the most quietly profound of the five, because it asks parents to think about something they're already doing, but perhaps not with the intention it deserves. Every parent serves their children. You make the meals, pack the lunches, help with homework, drive them places, fix the things that break. This is the work of parenting. But the authors are pointing at the quality of attention and willingness with which you show up to those acts. The book tells the story of a boy whose bicycle broke. His father was tired after a long week and not particularly interested in spending part of his Saturday on repairs. He did fix it, but his grumbling and sighing sent a message. The boy rode off on a repaired bicycle with a discouraged spirit. When a child whose primary language is acts of service asks for your help, they are not simply asking you to solve a problem. They are asking whether you love them enough to show up. The quality of your response, whether you offer it warmly, whether you treat it as worth your time, is the actual message. This love language also carries an extraordinary teaching opportunity. When parents serve their children with joy and without strings attached, they are modeling what service looks like. The authors describe Gary Chapman's family hosting college students on Friday nights for years, and the children wandering in and out of those evenings watching their parents open their home with warmth. Those children grew into adults who served others naturally, because they had seen it modeled, consistently, from the very beginning. Now, the book turns to the question parents are most eager to answer: how do you actually discover which language is your child's primary one? The authors offer several practical methods. The first is observation. Watch how your child expresses love to you and to others. Children tend to give love in the language they most want to receive. Does your child bring you small things they found outside? Do they want to sit close? Do they beam when you say something kind about them? Do they ask you to fix things or help them? Another method is to listen to what your child complains about. Children whose primary language is quality time tend to say things like, "We never do anything together anymore." Those who need words of affirmation often ask, "Do you think I did that well?" Those who need touch will say, "Why don't you hug me anymore?" The authors also suggest a structured experiment. Spend 2 weeks focusing intensively on one love language, then step back and observe the response, then move to another. If your child asks why you stopped a particular behavior, if they brighten in a specific way when one approach is used, they are pointing you toward their language. On teenagers, a teen in a difficult phase may seem to push away all 5 love languages at once. The authors are reassuring here. Stay calm, stay present, stay warm. Keep the tank as full as you can. Teenagers almost always come back, but they come back more completely when they discover, in the pushing away phase, that their parents didn't actually leave. One of the most valuable things this book does is apply the love languages framework to 2 areas where parents often feel most lost: discipline and anger. On discipline, the authors begin with something that should feel obvious but apparently needs saying. Discipline is not the same thing as punishment. The word comes from the same root as disciple. It means to train, to guide, to shape over time. Punishment is one small tool within that larger process, and in many homes it is greatly overused. Parents default to punishment because they mistake control for formation. But a child who only learns through consequences hasn't really internalized anything. They've just learned when to expect the consequence. The author's central claim about discipline is this: a child whose emotional love tank is full is dramatically easier to discipline. Not because discipline becomes easier to administer, but because a loved child identifies with their parents. They want to please them. They feel secure enough to accept correction without experiencing it as rejection. When the tank is empty, every correction lands as another wound, more evidence that they are a burden, that they are not loved. The book tells the story of a 10-year-old named Michael whose father was a hard-working lawyer who provided the family with everything it materially needed. But Michael and his father barely spent time together. By the time the father's patience ran out over some misbehavior and the discipline came, usually harsh words and an angry voice, Michael experienced it not as loving guidance but as punishment from a man he barely knew. He complied on the surface and seethed underneath. He was afraid of his father, not connected to him. The authors are explicit: fill the love tank before you discipline. Speak your child's primary language first. Not as a manipulation tactic, not to soften them up so the punishment lands easier, but because a child who feels genuinely loved can hear correction as care rather than condemnation. They can hold both truths at once: I am loved, and this behavior is not acceptable. They describe the goal of discipline as being kind and firm at the same time. Not one and then the other, both simultaneously. The firmness maintains the boundary. The kindness communicates that the child's worth is not on the table. You can hold a boundary with warmth. The two are not in conflict. On anger, the authors give this its own chapter, and they are right to do so. The book makes a claim that stops many parents cold. The primary lifetime threat to your child is their own unmanaged anger. Not accidents, not peer pressure, not screen time. Their own anger, if it is not handled well, can damage or destroy them. The mishandling of anger is connected to poor academic performance, broken relationships, and what the authors describe as an antagonism toward all forms of authority. A child who never learns to process anger will always have pockets of immaturity in their character no matter how much else they develop. This means parents have two tasks. First, manage your own anger, because children learn to handle anger primarily by watching their parents. A parent who loses control in front of their child, who disciplines out of rage rather than care, is teaching exactly how not to manage it. The authors are honest and non-judgmental. Most adults were never taught healthy anger management themselves. If that's you, they strongly urge getting help in this area, for your sake and your child's. Second, actively teach your child what to do when they feel angry. Anger itself is neutral. It becomes a tool or a weapon depending on how it is channeled. The book tells the story of a shy 14-year-old named Jill who was being subjected to a teacher who regularly belittled religious faith in class. She was angry, genuinely and rightfully so. Instead of suppressing it or erupting, she organized her classmates and confronted the teacher respectfully. The mockery stopped. Jill had used her anger constructively to protect something she cared about. That is what mature anger looks like. The book also connects love languages to academic learning in a chapter worth sitting with. When a child's emotional tank is full, they are better able to concentrate, take intellectual risks, and handle the frustrations that come with not knowing things yet. The authors suggest something specific: speak your child's primary love language in the moments that bookend the school day. Julia's mother learned that her daughter's primary language was acts of service. She began making sure Julia's bag was packed and ready each morning, and had a small treat or surprise waiting when Julia came home. Within weeks, Julia's attitude toward school shifted noticeably. She seemed more settled, more positive. Her mother hadn't changed the school. She had changed the frame around it. Those 2 daily points of contact had refilled the tank that everything else in Julia's day was drawing from. The book also addresses 2 family situations often underserved by conventional parenting advice: single-parent households and the effect of the parents' own relationship on the children. For single parents, the authors are both honest about the difficulty and practical about what's possible. When one parent carries the full emotional load, the risk of running dry is real. The 5 love languages still apply, but a single parent needs to be especially intentional about which language to prioritize, because time and energy are limited. Knowing your child's primary language means you can concentrate your limited reserves where they do the most good. A targeted 15 minutes of quality time with a child who needs time will do more than an hour of scattered attention. Single parents also need their own support, not as a luxury but as a necessity. You cannot consistently pour into a child's emotional tank from one that is empty. On the parents' relationship, the book is direct that children feel the emotional temperature of the home even when adults believe they are hiding it well. When 2 parents are cold toward each other, dismissive, or openly hostile, the child absorbs that atmosphere and their sense of security is undermined, even if their own tank is being actively filled. Speaking your child's love language while fighting with your partner creates a contradiction the child cannot resolve. The book closes with a quiet but powerful idea. The goal of learning to speak all 5 love languages isn't only to love your child more effectively right now. It is to raise someone who can love others well throughout their life. Most children are naturally self-focused. They want to receive love, and they tend to give it in the language they most want to receive, which means they often miss the mark with the people around them. The parents who raise children who become genuinely other-oriented adults are usually those who modeled multilingual love, who showed their children, through the ordinary texture of daily life, what it looks like to notice what someone else needs and to show up for them in that specific way. Where does this book sit among others in the parenting conversation? The most natural companion is The Whole Brain Child by Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. That book goes deep into the neuroscience of why children behave as they do during emotional flooding, why the thinking brain goes offline, and how to engage the developing brain rather than just manage behavior. It fills the gap the 5 love languages leaves open, the biology behind emotional regulation. They are complementary books, not competing ones. The 5 love languages tells you which channel to speak through. The Whole Brain Child helps you understand why the child sometimes cannot hear you at all, and what to do about it in those moments. Where does this book fall short? The most honest critique is that it is written from a Christian perspective, and some passages make explicit reference to biblical values. Readers who share that background will feel at home. Those who don't may find it occasionally interrupts the more universal message. The framework itself has also not been systematically validated by independent research in the way that attachment theory has been. That doesn't make it unhelpful. The case studies are rich and widely recognizable, but it means you are working from clinical observation and accumulated wisdom rather than controlled studies. And the framework can sometimes feel cleaner on the page than in real family life. Children don't always behave like case studies. They change. They go through phases. A child who seemed to respond primarily to touch at 5 may need something different at 12. The book acknowledges this, but perhaps not as thoroughly as the messiness of actual parenting requires. None of this undermines what the book does extraordinarily well. It gives parents a language for something they feel but struggle to articulate. The sense that you are doing everything right and still somehow not quite reaching your child. The helplessness of watching a child who seems unhappy when you have tried so hard to make them happy. The framework of the 5 love languages doesn't solve everything, but it gives you a place to look. So as you drift towards sleep tonight, carry one question with you. Which language does your child most need from you right now? Not the one that's easiest to give. The one they are asking for, even if they are asking without words. The clinginess, the irritability, the withdrawal, the repeated small requests. They are usually trying to tell you something. This book is a guide to learning how to listen. There's more in the full book, detailed practical suggestions for each love language by age, the love language mystery game for older children, and guidance for blended and single-parent families that deserves your attention. The link to grab a copy is below, and it helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. Sleep well, and we'll see you at Whispering Pages for the next one.